China's C919 jet faces criticism as passengers report water leaks on board. Hunan flood, 30 dead, 35 missing, victims face food and water shortage. Nears Lin Bao Moment or uses military drills to attack Taiwan? Paris Olympics, doping scandal shadows Chinese swimmers. China blames imported beef for positive steroid tests. It's all covered in today's China Truths. China's C919 jet faces criticism as passengers report water leaks on board. China's C919 passenger jet, hailed as a significant technological achievement, is now facing criticism and disappointment from its supporters just 1 year into its commercial operations. Recently, an unusual incident took place on Eastern Airlines flight MU-9197 traveling from Shanghai Hongqiao to Chengdu Tianfu. Just before takeoff, a flight attendant distributed tissues to passengers, explaining that they were to be used to wipe water droplets. The reason for this became apparent after the aircraft was airborne. Water started dripping from the overhead luggage compartments. One passenger reported that the flight attendant explained that the dripping was due to condensation from the air conditioning system. However, upon closer inspection of the compartments, it became apparent that the design quality was lacking, with components that resembled car parts from a factory. This incident has raised concerns about the future of the C919 aircraft and its manufacturing standards. The C919, China's ambitious attempt to rival industry giants Boeing and Airbus, is now facing scrutiny for potentially alarming passengers rather than offering a competitive edge. The aircraft was meant to carry the aspirations of many Chinese citizens, but its quality and production speed have sparked disappointment. On July 29, Eastern Airlines officially received its 7th aircraft. However, critics have raised questions about the delivery pace. Despite orders surpassing 1,300, only 7 planes have been delivered over a span of 1.5 years. When will all these orders be fulfilled? Some people believe that the reduced production capacity is due to Western sanctions, which have reportedly made it difficult to obtain essential components and systems. However, apart from engines supplied by France's Safran, most systems are produced by joint ventures involving Chinese companies. Many of these companies have set up local branches with sufficient contractual supplies and inventory. Currently, Comac, the manufacturer of the C919, has confirmed orders for about 800 aircraft, while the remaining orders are classified as intentions. Many of these orders come from Chinese airlines and state-owned leasing companies. Comac plans to expand sales to regions such as the Middle East and Africa, but the results remain uncertain. If manufacturing quality is as concerning as reported by consumers, even entering developing markets may prove challenging. Despite years of enthusiastic media coverage and public acclaim, the C919 faces significant hurdles as it navigates the skies ahead. This aircraft's journey is fraught with obstacles, and the aviation industry is closely watching its progress. Hunan flood, 30 dead, 35 missing, victims face food and water shortage. Devastating floods are ongoing in parts of China, particularly in Hunan province. Heavy rains, overflowing rivers, and the release of water from reservoirs have led to extensive damage. The city of Zixing has been especially affected, with 30 deaths and 35 people still missing due to torrential rain. Mr. Li, a resident of Zixing City affected by the disaster, told NTD TV, "The dam continues to release water today, and many houses are gone. Everything has been washed away, not a single building is left. It's far worse than you can imagine. It's devastating." A local disaster victim told the NTD reporters, "We have no water to drink." Another said, "Old houses have been washed away." A third remarked, "This morning, we ran out of rice at home." Another resident of Zixing City, Mr. Li, commented on the gravity of the situation, saying, "The casualty figures are overwhelming. The situations in Dongping and Longxi are incredibly dire, and they are beyond words." Xin Shui, vice chairman of the Federation for a Democratic China, criticized the response to the flooding, stating, "The release of floodwaters has led to many deaths. The authorities' so-called rescue operations were just for show, resulting in grandiose videos. When discussing natural disasters, it is crucial to recognize that such disasters are often exacerbated by the authoritarian and tyrannical nature of the Chinese regime, turning what could have been manageable situations into severe crises. In the northeast, heavy rains have brought widespread flooding across 3 provinces. To manage rising water levels, on July 31, Jilin and Liaoning provinces had to discharge water from 36 and 31 reservoirs, respectively, which worsened the disaster situation. From Ning'an and Mudanjiang, Heilongjiang province, local resident Mr. Wang reports, the floodwaters reversed the flow of the river, causing significant damage to rural areas. We've seen substantial losses in property, homes, and land. Additionally, the rising waters of the Mudanjiang River have inundated numerous villages and towns in Ning'an, transforming streets into waterways. In response, authorities have relocated over 9,000 people to safer grounds. The number of casualties, however, remains unclear at this time. The weather department has forecasted that thunderstorms will continue in parts of Hunan in the upcoming days, with some areas expected to experience heavy rainfall. In a rare public appearance, Chinese Premier Li Qiang was on site today in Qinzhou, Hunan. According to CCTV News, the premier visited Yanhua Village and Yanggongtang Village in Zimensi Town, Zixing City, to assess the flood damage personally. Wu Jingwang, the Secretary General of the State Council, accompanied him on this visit. This marks Premier Li Qiang's first visit to a disaster site since assuming office and positions him as the highest-ranking official from the Chinese Communist Party to inspect areas affected by this summer's flooding. Xi Nears Lin Bao Moment or uses military drills to attack Taiwan? Commentator Zhang Jia, in a piece for Beijing Spring, has analyzed the shifts within Chinese society since the Third Plenum, positing that Xi Jinping is on the verge of a critical juncture reminiscent of Lin Biao's fall from grace. Lin Biao, once a stalwart ally of Mao Zedong, saw his fortunes plummet after he indirectly criticized Zhang Chunqiao, a former vice premier of China, during the 1959 Lushan Conference. Lin's subsequent death in a plane crash while fleeing China, a calamity now known as the September 13 incident, signaled a profound change, heralding the decline of the Mao era. Zhang Jia characterizes a Lin Biao moment as a time when internal conflicts within the Chinese Communist Party escalate dramatically, breeding suspicion and panic, and forcing senior officials to undertake drastic measures that lead to significant political upheavals. He references the defection of Wang Lijun to the U.S. consulate in Chengdu as a modern echo of such a moment, albeit with lesser impact. Zhang further examines how the current CCP leader's relentless purging of rivals is reshaping the party's internal dynamics, delineating 3 primary consequences. Firstly, the party's internal factions are undergoing rapid changes, forming new power blocks in the wake of high-profile purges, including those of figures like Jiang Zemin. Secondly, this reorganization thrusts Xi into a period marked by deep suspicion and insecurity. Thirdly, the prevailing atmosphere of distrust among Xi and his inner advisors could precipitate poor decision-making and lead to extreme outcomes, akin to historical episodes in the former Soviet Union. Zhang concludes that Xi is approaching his own Lin Biao moment, suggesting that this might not only imply a potential flight but could also lead to a coup or assassination, indicating a possibly tumultuous future for Xi's leadership. Despite considerable internal and external pressures, Zhang notes that Xi appears to be positioning himself for a 4th term. Observers have highlighted the CCP's 20th Third Plenum communiqué, which sets a 2029 target for finalizing reform plans. According to Zhang, this suggests an extended tenure for Xi. Meanwhile, in a recent interview with Voice of America, Wang Yanlin, a scholar at Taiwan's National Defense Security Research Institute, underscored the strategic necessity for Beijing to shorten the duration of military operations in any potential action against Taiwan, cautioning against the possibility of military drills escalating into outright invasions. Wang also remarked that China is likely to persist in using gray zone tactics to diminish the warning time for Taiwan, the U.S., and Japan, potentially escalating large-scale exercises into full-scale combat scenarios. 2 months prior, Deputy Commander Steven Sklenka of the U.S. Indo-Pacific Command alerted to the fact that China's recent military drills around Taiwan were not merely routine exercises but a foreboding rehearsal for an invasion. He highlighted simulations of naval and air blockades, amphibious assaults, and frequent incursions into Taiwan's airspace, now a routine activity for the Chinese military. In the event of a conflict, Sklenka emphasized, the devastation in the Indo-Pacific region cannot be overstated. Yet, Sklenka also provided some reassurance, noting that an immediate military strike on Taiwan does not appear to be imminent. Paris Olympics, doping scandal shadows Chinese swimmers. The Paris Olympics are currently taking place, featuring intense competition across a wide range of sports. Amidst this, there have been renewed media reports on past doping controversies involving Chinese athletes. In 2022, 2 Chinese swimmers, Tang Muan and Yi Jinyi, tested positive for banned steroids. However, these cases were ultimately dismissed as incidents of food contamination, which allowed the athletes to continue competing. According to the Times, one of these swimmers is currently participating in the Paris Olympics. Prior to the 2021 Tokyo Olympics, 23 Chinese swimmers tested positive for banned substances. These incidents were also said to be due to accidental ingestion of contaminated food. As a result, no bans were imposed on the athletes, and they went on to win 3 gold medals. According to Reuters, U.S. anti-doping agency chief Travis Tiggart criticized China on Tuesday, July 30, for sweeping this positive test for a hardcore steroid under the rug. He warned that without changes in international regulatory practices, public trust in the integrity of the Olympic values will erode. On July 23, the World Swimming Federation revealed that each member of the Chinese swimming team has been subjected to an average of 21 doping tests this year in preparation for the Paris Olympics, the highest frequency globally. In contrast, other national teams with over 20 swimmers averaged only 4 to 6 tests per athlete. At last year's World Championships, breaststroke champion Qin Haiyang finished 7th in the men's 100-meter breaststroke final. Zhang Yufei, one of the athletes who tested positive in 2021, only managed a bronze medal in the women's 100-meter butterfly. Former Chinese Olympic champion Gao Min expressed her emotional reaction to Zhang Yufei's struggle on Weibo, suggesting that issues in the athlete's pre-competition training may have been exacerbated by what she perceived as excessive doping tests. She claimed, "I personally think the 7-times-a-day doping tests have successfully interfered with our Chinese swimming team." This comment sparked widespread discussion on Weibo. While many Chinese netizens believe that the underwhelming performance of Chinese swimmers is linked to excessive doping tests, international athletes and observers are more focused on the transparency and fairness surrounding Chinese competitors' clean status. Lai Jianping, a former Beijing lawyer and chairman of the Federation for a Democratic China and Canada, criticized the CCP system for pushing athletes beyond their limits, necessitating the use of performance-enhancing drugs as part of the regime's demands. Lai stated, "Without these drugs, these results would not be achievable with just their natural abilities." Thus, athletes are forced to comply with the commands of the party and the state, artificially enhancing their performance to secure the best results. Achieving these results allows the party and government to gain prestige, which in turn helps motivate the populace and sustain its authoritarian rule. He further noted that the long-term use of these drugs causes significant harm to athletes' physical and mental health, often without their genuine consent. Specific departments, he said, undergo internal tests beforehand. Some athletes may be reluctant, but due to significant vested interests, they often end up consenting to use these substances. Lan Shu, a U.S.-based current affairs commentator, characterized this practice as part of a gold medal system inherent in the state-run sports system. He claimed, an article once estimated that training each athlete for the Olympics or world competitions costs about 600 million yuan, about $83.13 million. This expenditure underlines the essence of the state-run system, which is the CCP sparing no expense to consolidate its rule. Commentator Lan Shu also emphasized the stark contrast between Western nations and China. Western societies prioritize individual rights, development, and respect, while the Chinese Communist Party's regime emphasizes a collective approach. According to Lan, the party's interests define the core of China's state-run system. Despite swimmer Zhang Yufei's plea for fairness in how Chinese athletes are viewed after the competition, the lingering suspicions of doping continue to cast a shadow over Chinese swimming. China blames imported beef for positive steroid tests. Next, we have a developing story on the ongoing doping controversy surrounding Chinese swimmers. In a bombshell report, Sky News reveals that Chinese state security services believe contaminated Australian beef caused 2 swimmers to fail drug tests in 2022. As we've mentioned above, the swimmers, Tang Muhan and Yi Junyi, were initially banned but later cleared by Chinese authorities who blamed tainted meat. Australian meat was subsequently investigated by authorities. However, Meat and Livestock Australia has rejected the recent claims that the banned substance was present in Australian meat, stating, "Menthanionone is not used in any capacity in Australian beef production or in any veterinary medicine." The Chinese officials' alleged blame on Australian meat comes just months after Sport Integrity Australia joined calls for a review of China's swimming doping saga. Australia has long condemned China's history of doping. The World Anti-Doping Agency, WADA, has launched an investigation into the contamination of meat products in multiple countries, including the United States, after expressing concern over numerous cases closed without sanction when it is not possible to challenge the contamination theory successfully before the Court of Arbitration for Sport, CAS. The agency highlighted several instances in the United States in recent months where highly intricate contamination scenarios were accepted, emphasizing that such cases are not limited to China. The global doping watchdog pushed back against media reports blaming WADA, criticizing the politicization of anti-doping and claiming it had been unfairly caught in the middle of geopolitical tensions. Don't forget to leave a comment in the section below to share your opinions on today's topic with us. Make sure to like and subscribe to see more interesting topics from China Truths.